I never thought I'd say this, but for the first time in my life, I wished I hadn't seen something. I wished my hearing was worse. I wished I'd stayed late at work just a little longer, because what I saw that night, just one street away from my own home, changed everything I thought I knew about love. My name's Noah. I'm 28. I've had hearing problems most of my life, not completely deaf, just bad enough that people have to repeat themselves, and I rely a lot on lip reading. I wear hearing aids, but they only do so much. Still, I've never let it stop me from living a normal life. I met Paige when we were 23 and 22. Fell hard. She had this wild, bright energy that pulled everyone in, the kind of woman who could turn a trip to the grocery store into an adventure. And she never made me feel broken. She learned how to talk facing me so I could read her lips better. She even learned a bit of sign, just for me. Said she loved my quiet, that being with me was peaceful. We got married 2 years ago. Bought a little house in a quiet neighborhood. Comfortable. Warm. I work in IT from home, and she teaches dance at a local studio. We had our routines. Sunday pancakes. Movie nights with subtitles. She made the house feel like a home. Soft lighting, candles, 1,000 throw pillows I never understood but always tripped over. I thought we were happy. I really did. I didn't sleep that night. I laid in bed staring at the ceiling, the room lit faintly by the glow of the street lamp outside. Paige still wasn't home when I got in, and that silence stretched out around me like a second blanket I couldn't get rid of. Her side of the bed stayed untouched, cold. I didn't check her location, didn't call. I already knew where she was. Dan's. The neighbor I waved to for over a year. The man who helped fix our back fence once. The guy who said, "You've got a good one," when Paige brought him cookies last Christmas. Yeah, that Dan. She slipped in sometime after 2 a.m. I heard the door. Soft. Practiced. She didn't know I'd seen her. Didn't know her quiet entry wasn't quiet enough. I pretended to be asleep. She moved slowly through the bedroom, undressing in the dark, her movements careful, not because she was being respectful, but because she had something to hide. Her breathing didn't even hitch. No guilt in her steps. Just routine. Like this was just another Thursday night. She climbed into bed beside me. I could feel the warmth of her skin, smelled her perfume, a little faded but still sweet. I wanted to ask if she had fun, wanted to turn my head and watch her try to lie. But I didn't. I laid still, holding on to the last breath I could take before everything exploded. Morning came with sunlight and a tight throat. She made coffee like nothing happened, wore my hoodie, asked if I wanted toast, kissed my cheek when she handed me my mug. I let her. I watched her lips when she spoke, not just to read them, but because I wanted to see if they trembled. They didn't. "How was your night?" she asked. I gave a little smile. "Quiet." She nodded. Didn't press. And I realized right then, she thought I'd never know. She thought she could cheat on a man with hearing loss, and I wouldn't pick up the clues. She mistook silence for ignorance. She didn't understand that silence makes you observant. I watched everything that morning. The way she checked her phone with the screen tilted. How she opened the blinds only halfway. The way she touched her hair more than usual, nervous. Performing. I saw it all. Later that day, I walked past Dan's house again. Just once. Out of curiosity? No. Let's be honest. It was masochism. His blinds were drawn tight this time. No show tonight. When I got home, Paige was texting someone in the kitchen. I saw the way she jumped when she noticed me, quick to flip the screen. Gave me a grin that didn't reach her eyes. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded. But inside, something was starting to unravel. That night, I sat on the couch pretending to watch a show. She curled up beside me like she always did. I didn't put my arm around her. Didn't kiss her forehead like usual. She didn't mention it. Maybe she noticed the difference. Or maybe she didn't care anymore. I kept looking at the TV, but all I could think about was how a man like Dan, older, divorced, living alone, ended up with the woman I built a life with. And more importantly, how long had it been going on? How long had I been the only one in this house still in love? The weekend came, and she was suddenly perfect. Saturday morning, she made pancakes, played music while she cooked, that same indie playlist we used to dance to in the kitchen. She pulled me in, arms around my neck, eyes bright like nothing was broken between us. I let her. I even smiled a little, just to see if she noticed the crack underneath. She didn't. Paige spent most of the day cleaning, said she wanted to reset the house. It was the first time in weeks she folded my laundry without me asking. That should have felt nice. It didn't. It felt like a cover-up, like she was trying to scrub the guilt out of the baseboards. Around 4 p.m., she said she was going to run errands. Left with her tote bag and a list she waved half-heartedly before blowing me a kiss. The second the door closed, I got in my car. I didn't need a plan. I just needed proof. I drove around for a bit, thinking she'd be at Target or the grocery store. But then I saw her car. Not at a store. Not even near one. Parked 2 streets over. Just around the corner from Dan's place. And her? She was on his porch. I killed the engine and watched from down the block. She knocked once, then glanced around. He opened the door, pulled her in fast. No words. No hesitation. Like they'd done this a dozen times before. I didn't move. Didn't take a picture. I didn't need one. The image burned itself into me right then and there. She stayed an hour and a half. When she got home, she held up a bag of groceries, 2 things. Bread and eggs. Said the store was packed. I nodded. Tough crowd. Insane, she said, rolling her eyes. Then she kissed my cheek again. The same cheek she'd lied to 2 hours earlier. And me? I just stood there in my own kitchen, wondering if she thought I was stupid, or just too in love to see her for who she'd really become. Sunday morning, she asked if I wanted to go to brunch. We used to do that little cafe on Maple Street. I said sure, just to see what she'd do with the illusion. She got dressed slow, casual, but polished. Not for me, I realized. Just in case she ran into him. The realization stung harder than I expected. While we sat across from each other at the cafe, she scrolled her phone beneath the table. Not nonstop, just enough to notice. I watched her smile once. Not at me. At a message. Then she looked up quick, like she'd forgotten I was sitting right there. You okay? She asked, feigning concern. I smiled. Yeah, just thinking. About how you kissed another man with the same mouth you used to say you'd never hurt me. About how quiet betrayal really is. We ate. Made small talk. She paid. Called it a treat. On the drive home, she reached for my hand. Held it like everything was fine. But I could feel the tremor in her fingers. That night, I sat in our bedroom alone. She was in the shower. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. No preview on the lock screen. Just a name. D. Not Dan. Just D. Subtle. Lazy. I stared at it. Heart hammering. Didn't touch it. Didn't need to. Her secrets were finally leaking through the seams. She came out minutes later, towel around her hair, face soft. I searching. Hey, she said. I nodded. She climbed into bed, rolled to her side, back facing me. I laid there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, and I realized something I hadn't admitted yet. I wasn't hurt anymore. I was angry, because love doesn't end with a window. But trust? Trust dies the moment someone looks at you and lies without blinking. Monday morning hit different. She made coffee, poured mine just the way I like it, 2 sugars, oat milk. Set it beside my laptop with a smile like she hadn't gutted me a dozen times in the last 3 days. Busy week ahead? She asked. Yeah, I said. Lots to think about. She nodded, kissed the top of my head, and walked out like it was a normal day. Like her secret didn't already live rent-free in both of our walls. After she left for work, I sat there in the silence. The mug was still warm, untouched. I watched the steam fade and felt something tighten in my chest. I couldn't keep doing this. So I drove. Not far, just to clear my head. Ended up by the old park we used to walk through during the early days. Back when we still felt invincible. I sat there, car running, thinking about the man I was when I proposed. I thought about how I signed up for forever, not knowing she was only ever renting. When I got back home, I walked into the bedroom and opened her closet. Not to snoop, just to see. There it was, the new lingerie she bought 2 months ago. The one she told me was just for fun. Still had the tag on. Never worn for me. I opened her drawer. Found a receipt tucked inside a book. A restaurant. Not one we'd ever gone to. Date. 3 weeks ago. A Friday night I remember clearly because I was home alone watching a movie she said she wasn't in the mood for. She was in the mood for someone else. The rest of the day passed like molasses. She got home around 6. Kissed me on the cheek. Asked what I wanted for dinner. Whatever you want, I said. Because that's all I'd ever been doing, giving her what she wanted. While she gave me half of herself, and all of herself to him. That night, I watched her laugh at a sitcom she wasn't really watching. She curled into the couch like we were still us, pulled the blanket over her legs, stole the remote from me, playfully bumped my arm. The same little things she used to do back when we were building a life, except now it felt like I was watching someone perform a version of my wife. Fake joy, fake comfort. And me? I was part of the set design. I nodded along, forced to smile when she looked over, but inside I felt hollow, like I was borrowing someone else's marriage for the sake of appearances. When she went to bed, I stayed up, just sat in the dark living room, light from the hallway bleeding across the carpet. I needed to make a choice. I could confront her, blow it all open, tell her what I saw, what I knew. Or I could wait, keep watching, let her show me how far she was willing to go with the lie. Because every day she chose not to come clean. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was testing how much of myself I was willing to lose to keep pretending. The next morning, she asked if I could grab groceries. "Get those muffins you like," she said with a grin. "And more of that almond milk." I drove to the store, sat in the parking lot for 30 minutes. I didn't care about muffins. I cared about the way her voice didn't shake. I cared about how someone could share a bed with you and still make plans with another man in their head. At home, I placed the groceries on the counter. She kissed me like always. I kissed her back, but this time, my eyes were open, and I saw her clearly for the first time in weeks. Not Paige, the woman I married, but Paige, the woman who was trying to hide from the fallout she built with her own hands. The week dragged. She acted like everything was normal, better than normal, actually. She made jokes again, sent me memes in the middle of the day like she used to. Even came home early twice, wrapped her arms around me from behind while I was cooking and whispered, "I missed you today." I think I said, "I missed you too" back once. And it hit me how automatic that response was. Like muscle memory from a different lifetime. We didn't fight, didn't argue. She offered me all the surface-level warmth she had, like she was investing back into our marriage just enough to keep it from dying. But she didn't know I was already gone from it in a way I hadn't admitted out loud yet. That's what happens when you love someone who lies to your face. You don't fall out of love. You fall out of the version of yourself that believed them. Wednesday evening, I caught her smiling at her phone again. She was sitting on the porch, sunlight hitting her just right, and for a second I almost forgot what she'd done. I almost let myself pretend she was mine again, until she angled the screen away from me like she didn't trust the reflection in my eyes. That moment cracked something in me. It wasn't about the affair anymore. It was about the cowardice. The quiet, daily betrayal of someone who still looked you in the face and said, "I love you," while already knowing the exit. I made a decision that night. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to yell or scream or break furniture. I didn't want drama. I wanted honesty. So I planned it. I picked Friday, end of the week, end of the pretending. I'd wait for her to come home from work. I'd have the evidence ready, calmly laid out. No ambush, just quiet confrontation. I wasn't going to ask her why. I already knew the answer didn't matter. I just wanted to see what kind of person she really was when the curtain finally dropped. Thursday night felt heavy. She was in a good mood again. Made pasta. Told me about one of her students nailing a dance routine. Kissed me 3 times in the span of an hour. Each one landed a little softer. Each one felt more like guilt than love. We went to bed early. She curled into me. I stared at the ceiling again, heart pounding like it was trying to warn me this was the last night I'd ever see her the same way again. And it was right. Because after Friday, she'd never be my wife again. Not really. She just didn't know it yet. Friday came like a countdown. Every hour felt like a drumbeat. I couldn't focus on work. I couldn't think about anything except what was coming. The air in the house felt different, like it was holding its breath. I sat at the kitchen table most of the day, laptop open, but untouched. Her mug still sat by the sink from that morning. Lipstick on the rim. She'd kissed me goodbye like always, same softness, same fake warmth. I almost said it right then. Almost looked her in the eyes and said, "You don't have to come back tonight." But I didn't, because I needed her to come home and see it for herself. I spent the afternoon getting everything ready. I pulled up the messages she didn't know I saw, the ones I screenshotted from her old synced iPad she forgot she left in the closet. I found the blurry photo I took the night I saw her in Dan's window, still buried in my camera roll. I printed the restaurant receipt I'd found in her jacket. I didn't label anything, didn't highlight or underline. I just laid it all out on the table like a quiet truth that didn't need my voice to explain itself. 6:12 p.m. That's when I heard her car. It pulled into the driveway like any other day. The door shut, keys jingled, her heels clicked against the pavement. I stayed seated at the table, back straight, heart pounding like it was counting down. She walked in with a smile, a grocery bag in one hand, hair tied up, cheeks pink from the cold. "Hey, babe," she said. "I got your favorite." She stopped, eyes locked on the table. I didn't speak. She didn't move. She looked from the messages to the receipt, then to me. Her face didn't change immediately. It took a few seconds. First confusion, then a twitch of recognition, then that kind of stillness that only comes when someone realizes the lie they built has finally collapsed. I waited, still didn't speak. She set the bag down slowly, like she was afraid anything louder than a whisper would break the moment beyond repair. "Noah," she said. "Just my name. Not an excuse. Not a denial. Just my name, soft, almost scared." I nodded once. "I know." Silence. A long, sharp silence that cut between us like a blade. No yelling. No crying. Just the sound of a woman realizing she wasn't invisible anymore. She stepped forward, but I raised a hand. Just slightly. Enough to make her stop. "Don't," I said. Calm. Clear. She opened her mouth. Closed it again. Her eyes were glassy now. Red around the edges. "I didn't want," she started. "I know what you didn't want," I said. "But you did it anyway." The quiet that followed felt heavier than shouting ever could. Because she knew. There was no walking this back. She didn't sit. Just stood there, half in the kitchen, half out of the truth she could no longer avoid. Her breathing had changed shallow, uneasy. Her eyes kept darting across the table, like she was trying to figure out how deep the damage was. But the thing is, when someone betrays you slowly, it's not a single crack. It's hairline fractures running through everything you built together. The chair you both assembled on a lazy Sunday. The spice rack she insisted on labeling. Even the light in the hallway felt dimmer, like it knew too. She leaned against the counter eventually, hands gripping the edge like it was the only thing keeping her upright. I stayed where I was. I didn't need to ask anything. All the questions had already been answered, not in words, but in silence. In her decision to keep showing up like nothing was broken. In her comfort living two lives while pretending to share one with me. She asked if I hated her. Not directly, but in that way people do when they look at you too long and don't know what to say. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to offer her. Not rage. Not comfort. Just the echo of what used to be love. Time moved weird in that moment. The kind of slow where your own heartbeat is the loudest thing in the room. After a while, she finally picked up the printout of the messages. I watched her scan them, each line hitting her like a soft slap. Her lips moved, not in shock, but in recognition. She knew every word, every lie, every late night spent pretending she was tired instead of unfaithful. There was no breakdown, no yelling, no dramatic collapse to the floor. Just a quiet sort of defeat, like she realized, maybe for the first time, that I'd already let her go long before I said it out loud. She whispered that she was sorry, voice cracking just enough to make it real, but not enough to fix anything. Sorry didn't mean anything anymore. It was just another word in a house full of empty spaces. She didn't sit. She just stood there in the doorway like a guest in her own life, like the house had turned cold around her and she couldn't figure out why. Her keys were still dangling from her hand, the grocery bag forgotten on the counter, eggs probably warming, bread slouching in its plastic wrap. She didn't move, didn't speak. She didn't have to. I could see the realization wash over her, slow, thick, like syrup dripping through cracks she didn't know were there. She looked down at the table, at the messages, at the receipts, at the photo, grainy and tilted, but clear enough. Her mouth parted just slightly, but nothing came out. I didn't say anything either. I just watched her. And in that silence, something broke. Not the house, not the furniture, just the illusion. The spell of safety that people in love live under. The idea that you know who you married. That the hands you wake up beside are only ever holding you. She moved toward the table eventually, like it was sacred ground. Like she was afraid stepping too close would set it all ablaze. Her hand hovered over the stack of papers, fingers trembling before she touched the edge of one of the screenshots. She didn't flip through them, just stared at the first message. It was enough. A line from him. Last night was perfect. Same time Friday. She read it twice, maybe 3 times. Her chest rose and fell faster now. Still no words. I could see it happening in her eyes, the collapse. Not the flashy kind, the quiet kind. The way her shoulders slowly gave up their tension. The way her throat moved as she swallowed hard, trying to keep something down. Maybe shame, maybe fear. She finally sat. She didn't make a sound when she pulled out the chair. Just lowered herself into it like her body suddenly weighed more than she could carry. Her hands went to her lap, but she couldn't stop fidgeting. I watched her wipe her palms on her jeans, then squeeze them together, then separate them again. I stayed standing. She looked up at me, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't recognize her. Not because her face had changed, but because the version of her I'd spent years memorizing, the one who made me coffee in the mornings, who curled up next to me during thunderstorms, wasn't there anymore. What was left was someone who didn't look surprised to be caught, just sad that the pretending was over. When she finally spoke, her voice was thin, barely audible. "I never wanted to hurt you." I blinked, slowly. I'd heard that one before, in books and movies. It's the classic line, the soft-spoken defense of someone who's already thrown the match into the gasoline. "I didn't plan it," she added. Eyes wet now. "It just happened." There it was again. Another line from the handbook of quiet betrayal. I still didn't speak. Not because I didn't have words, but because none of them felt worth sharing. She started to cry then. Real tears. Quiet ones. She wasn't sobbing or breaking down, just slowly unraveling in front of me, like her own guilt had finally caught up and had nowhere else to hide. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't angry. I thought I would be. I thought I'd shout or slam my fist or demand answers. But there was nothing left to protect, no fight to have. The fire had already burned through us, and all that remained were ashes shaped like memories. She said she was sorry, twice, maybe 3 times, each one softer than the last, like she was hoping the repetition would somehow make it stick. But sorry doesn't rebuild trust. It doesn't rewind time. It doesn't unsee a kiss exchanged through a neighbor's window. It just floats in the air, weightless, and eventually disappears. Just like she would. The house felt like it had shrunk. The kitchen, the table, even the air, everything was smaller now, tighter. We were sitting barely 3 feet apart, but it may as well have been an ocean. She wiped her eyes with her sleeve. I didn't reach for her. It's strange, really, how quickly instinct dies. Just a few weeks ago, if she cried, I'd be at her side without thinking, arm around her, hand in her hair, whispering that we'd be okay, that she wasn't alone. But now I didn't feel like I owed her comfort, only clarity. She started to speak again, and I cut her off with a glance. Not with anger, just a small shake of the head. She got the message. I picked up the printed messages and slid them into a folder. I didn't need them in front of me anymore. The damage wasn't in the details, it was in the silence between us. The slow burn betrayal. The way she kissed me every night while carrying someone else's name in her heart. "I want to know one thing," I said quietly. "How long?" She didn't flinch. 2 months, she said. Almost 3. There wasn't a hint of defensiveness in her tone. She answered like a student caught cheating on a test, not surprised, just exposed. 3 months. That's a full season. Whole birthdays and dentist appointments and dinner plans. That's a quarter of a year she chose someone else while sleeping beside me. I nodded once. That was all the confirmation I needed. She asked if I hated her. I didn't answer. Because hate requires energy, passion, feeling. And what I felt was beyond that. It was the kind of numb that comes after a storm, not because the sun is back out, but because everything worth saving already washed away. She started explaining anyway, filling the space with words I didn't ask for. Something about how Dan made her feel noticed, seen. How it wasn't about sex, but something deeper, attention, connection. That she didn't know how to stop once it started. That it spiraled. That she thought I was too distant, too quiet. That part made me laugh, not because it was funny, but because I remembered all the times I sat in the same room with her, desperate for a piece of her attention, while she scrolled her phone or had a headache. It wasn't that I was quiet. It's that she stopped listening. She said she still loved me. Said it like she believed it, too. And maybe, in some twisted way, she did. But I didn't want that kind of love. I didn't want love that asked me to shrink so she could stretch out her boredom with someone else. I stood up, finally. "I'm going to stay at a hotel tonight," I said. She looked up at me, panic blooming behind her eyes. Noah, wait. But I was already moving, already packing a bag. Not much, just a few clothes, toothbrush, charger. I didn't want to take too much. I didn't want her to think I was making a statement. I just wanted space. Real space. Without her scent on the pillows. As I zipped the duffel shut, she hovered in the doorway of the bedroom. You don't have to leave, she said, voice small. I paused, looked her in the eye. You already did. She didn't respond, didn't cry again, didn't chase me out the door. And that's when I knew this was already over. Not because I left, but because she let me. The hotel room was small, sterile, and too quiet, even for me. I laid on the bed that first night, fully clothed, staring at a popcorn ceiling under yellow light. The air conditioner rattled every 10 minutes. The fridge hummed like it had something to say, but nothing cut through the stillness of being there alone. Except this time, I wasn't wishing she was next to me. I was wishing I had left sooner. The weight I'd been carrying for weeks, suspicion, heartbreak, restraint, had cracked loose in pieces the moment I walked out that door. It didn't feel like an escape. Not quite. More like stepping outside a house I didn't realize was on fire until the smoke was in my lungs. She texted that night. Just one message. Please don't shut me out. I don't know what to do. I stared at it for a long time. Not because I didn't know how to answer, but because I did. And I knew the truth would hurt. So I didn't reply. Instead, I turned off the lamp, rolled to my side, and slept better than I had in weeks. The next morning, I woke up with a strange sense of clarity. No panic, no racing thoughts, just the echo of something finished. I made a list, not a dramatic one, not pros and cons, or should I stay, or should I go. I didn't need that. I wrote down what I gave her: stability, patience, my name, my body, my time. Then I wrote what she gave me back. It was shorter, much shorter. Mid-morning, she called. I let it ring out. She tried again, and again. I didn't block her. I wasn't angry anymore. I just didn't want her words. I didn't want to hear the voice that used to be home whispering things she should have said before stepping into Dan's house in the dark. She sent a longer text that afternoon. Said she couldn't eat. Said she missed me. Said she understood if I couldn't forgive her, but that she wanted to talk, not to beg, but to explain. And a part of me wanted that too. I wanted to hear what lies she'd dressed in honesty this time, what version of events she'd crafted to soften the truth. But I didn't go. Instead, I called my brother. First time in a while. We hadn't talked about serious things since college. He answered on the second ring. You good? He asked immediately. I hadn't told him anything yet, but I guess it was in my voice. No, I said, but I'm better than I was yesterday. He didn't ask for details. Just listened while I filled in the story. From the first sign of distance to the night at Dan's window. I kept my voice steady, like I was reading from a page. At the end, he didn't offer advice. Just said, she didn't deserve the version of you that held on that long. That stuck with me. That night, I drove past the house. Not to go in, just to look. Her car was there. Lights were on in the living room. I imagined her curled on the couch, eyes on the door. I wondered if she'd packed a bag for me, if she was hoping I'd walk back and like all I needed was time. But time wasn't the cure. Time was the proof. It showed me what I was without her, and I liked that man better. I met her one last time. Sunday afternoon. Neutral ground. A quiet bench near the pond where we used to walk our old route, back when everything felt effortless. She was already there when I arrived, hands in her lap, face tight with anticipation. I sat beside her. No hug, no smile, just the wind between us. She started with, thank you. Thank you for agreeing to come. Thank you for hearing her out. Thank you for not blocking her number. But I wasn't there for her thanks. I let her speak. Let her explain how it started, how it was innocent at first. Conversations, favors, little exchanges that grew until the distance between them closed faster than the distance between us. She cried, not dramatically, just steady tears she didn't bother to wipe away. She said she didn't know why she did it. She said she still loved me. She said she hated what she became. And I believed her. But I also believed that she waited to feel guilty until she got caught. That's the part they never tell you about betrayal. It's not just the act. It's the absence of confession. It's the silence you didn't notice until it screamed. She asked if there was still hope. Hope. As if that word hadn't already bled dry between us. I told her I forgave her. Her eyes widened. Maybe in shock, maybe in relief. But that doesn't mean I'm staying, I said. Because forgiveness isn't a promise. It's a release. And I was done carrying what wasn't mine to hold. She nodded. She didn't argue. Maybe she already knew this was the only ending we had left. When I stood, she stood too. We didn't hug. We didn't touch. She looked at me like she wanted to memorize something. My face, my silence, my goodbye. And then she whispered, "I'll always love you." I smiled for real this time. Soft, not bitter. "Then you should have protected me better." And I walked away. That was 3 months ago. The papers are signed. The house is on the market. I moved into a new place, smaller, quieter. But it's mine. And I don't look at windows the same way anymore. I don't glance at phone screens or wonder what someone isn't telling me. I don't live in doubt. I still think about her sometimes. Not with anger. Not even with sadness. Just with distance. Like remembering a song that meant something once, but now only plays in the background. Love didn't fail me. She did. And I lived. And that's enough.